Alright guys, so after a long time of basically withholding myself from watching 7 Deadly Sins Season 3, I finally got around to doing it because, we're stuck inside. Obviously, I'm going to watch something. So I look past all the memes, all the criticism, all the bashing done by the anime community on this season. And honestly, the season was not that bad. I honestly did enjoy this season to some extent, mind you. So of course you already know that I gotta make a discussion video on this because we need to talk about this unpopular opinion, I guess you could say. Obviously the biggest criticism really with this season was the animation issues. And now I'm not here to say that those anime issues don't matter, or I'm not trying to give them an okay, like a pass on this. Like, yes, the animation was horrible, but it's not to the point where it honestly prevents me from still getting some enjoyment out of the season and like the plot, the characters. Like, I still really enjoy the world building done by 7 Deadly Sins. I like the characters, and we actually got a lot about the plot this season, which I really enjoyed. Like, it seemed like the first 2 seasons were just kind of more like action, really shonen-y, just trying to show us what they could do, really, like in terms of like Meliodas being just a badass who's like undefeated in the first season. Then the second season, Meliodas is actually you see Meliodas getting defeated, killed. Again, this is kind of a spoiler video, so if you have I probably should have said that earlier, but yeah, there's going to be spoilers in this video. We're going to be talking about all the seasons as a whole, and maybe I'll even like kind of rank them right now. I guess I could do that, rank the seasons in my opinion. Maybe I'll do that at the end actually. But yes, the animation was god awful. It definitely did. Well, I feel like the animation really hurt more so the manga readers than the anime watchers, and like just those people who are very anal about the animation has to be pristine. Like, it's kind of reminds me, not to this extent, but like One Punch Man Season 2. People were complaining because, if you guys don't know, One Punch Man Season 2 was actually made by a different studio, I believe, a different animation studio. And basically how that whole thing was, like, when the first episode dropped, everyone was complaining, oh, this animation is nothing compared to Season 1. This is nothing compared to Mob Psycho, which Mob Psycho basically, its animation, it's like its strongest, one of the biggest things it got going for it, in my opinion. But with 7 Deadly Sins, it is very obvious that there is a very big decline in the animation quality. Like, if you guys don't already know, the Meliodas meme of him in the bed and that like little frame where it looks like it's drawn by like a 4th grader. Honestly, when I saw that, it wasn't even that like made me withhold from watching it. It was actually the censorship. We're gonna get into that in a bit, but that Meliodas scene, honestly, it was more so funny for me than like, Jesus Christ, dude, they ruined 7 Deadly Sins. Like, I didn't have that kind of reaction. Honestly though, I think just whatever an animation studio does, I feel like people are gonna find something to nitpick about the animation, like a few scenes being off, or a few faces, a few frames. Somehow people see these like few frames of like just trash animation and they just instantly go to bashing it, and it blows up, surprisingly enough. Honestly, the animation hiccups in Season 3 of 7 Deadly Sins kind of reminds me of what they did in Super as well. And I mean, yeah, like, do you guys remember the scene where it was like Super Saiyan 3 Goku, I think, versus Beerus, the Battle of Gods arc, and people kept memeing those little frames where Beerus looked like a doodle, like he looked like a rough sketch, like he looked like he was drawn by the person who made the webcomic for One Punch Man. It looked like that kind of drawing. But yeah, maybe I'll put up a little side-by-side comparison of like the hiccups in Super and 7 Deadly Sins. So like the biggest hiccups I really noticed in the animation was during the Escanor fight, Meliodas versus Escanor, and then that little bed scene that got memed to all hell. But yeah, really, other than that, I don't really remember seeing anything too horrible that made the season virtually unwatchable for me. But next we're going to kind of talk about like the episodes, and of course we're going to get to the censorship as well. Let's just start with episodes. Episode 1 started off pretty damn weak. I'm not going to lie. I remember when this was I think when the season dropped. This was like when episode 1 dropped. I was trying to watch it and I just got so goddamn bored by the first episode. Like, man, that episode was horrible. I don't know if it was filler or what, but like it was like Meliodas and Bond, I think, where they were like tracking down some kind of cart with demons in it, and that's like the first 10 minutes. I think we already see this horrible censorship. What they did is they made the blood white. Why white? I don't know. Like, why couldn't you just take out blood altogether? Why couldn't you just do that? But no, you make it white for some reason, and it looks so out of place. Like, for season 1 and 2, it was not censored at all. I'd say 7 Deadly Sins isn't the bloodiest show in the world, but it's definitely not for kids in any kind of capacity. Like, it definitely can get gory. It can get, I mean, the main character has a sword, for crying out loud. Bond's immortal. He gets ripped to pieces every now and then. So just seeing this boring ass episode alongside this horrible censorship just really made me I couldn't even finish the episode. So I literally just put 7 Deadly Sins away for the longest, and now I'm picking it back up. And once I got past that first episode, it honestly got better, in my opinion. Like, once we get into the part where we see like King and Diana are getting their little training or whatever by the giant king and the fairy king, I thought that was really interesting. Like in 7 Deadly Sins, like I said, it didn't seem like the first 2 seasons we really got too much about the plot and like the backstory or any really world building. But with this, I guess if you want to call it an arc or whatever, this specific arc with King and Diana going back to, I forgot what the kingdom's name is called, but going back in time, and we're seeing like Meliodas fighting demons, and we seeing the commandments going against the goddess clan and the humans and the giants and the fairies, and saying how all those clans are like interacting with each other and like where the beef came from. Like, why does the 10 Commandments hate Meliodas so much? Why did one of the commandments say Elizabeth looked familiar? Like, all these questions we were brought up with in the last season 2, and I think season 2 ended with I want to say it was Elizabeth using her, it was Meliodas dying. I want to say we got like a little bit of insight more so into Elizabeth's powers, but we really got left with a cliffhanger. Like, how the hell did Meliodas come back to life? Like, that shit made no sense. So in this season 3, we're seeing all this coming together. Like, we're seeing the clans, who the goddess clan really are. We're seeing the motives behind the human race, the giant race, the fairy race, and the 10 Commandments. And we're seeing more of Meliodas' backstory, because Meliodas has been around for like, it seems like decades. But yeah, basically after episode 1, the story really starts to pick up. The season itself, I think, starts to pick up. After this arc, I think it goes back to like the 7 Deadly Sins. And I believe Diane and King, of course, reunite. Also, their love ship, whatever you want to call it, finally got fulfilled. I mean, it seems like they're basically in a relationship at this point, which was so annoying. I hated that plot point in season 2. That was one of the worst plot points of that stupid amnesia cliche that they do in like almost every anime, where Diane loses his memories. King's trying to be Captain Save-A-Ho, basically. But it finally seems like King got the girl. Finally. Shoutouts to King, because King's one of my favorite characters. But we're just going to fast forward a little bit, and after this, we kind of get to Meliodas and the Escanor fight, which apparently, I guess a lot of people were mad at this fight, especially because it didn't live up to their expectations. The animation was trash. But coming from somebody who's only been keeping up with the anime, I really didn't have that huge of a problem with the fight, the animation, or like the fight in general. Yeah, I feel like it should have been badass. I mean, we literally have one of the strongest characters previously going up against Escanor, the badass himself. Sin of Pride going up against Sin of Wrath. Like, obviously, a lot of people were probably anticipating this fight to be literally top 10 anime fights, which I think a lot of people actually did say they thought this was going to be the top 10 anime fights. Like, it just seeing, I guess, that idea crash and burn, I guess that left a salty taste for a lot of people. But I guess maybe either I'm too forgiving, or maybe I don't understand it because I didn't read the manga. But I honestly, despite that sounding like the coolest matchup they could ever create, that could ever go down, I still didn't really expect much of a like high tier fight coming out of this. Like, I think Seven Deadly Sins has decent fights. Like, I don't think the fights are bad, but they're not spectacular, I don't think, in my opinion. So I guess maybe that's why I wasn't really expecting this to be any kind of top 10. I mean, like, in the last season we had Escanor versus Estarossa, which was awesome. I really actually did enjoy that. I enjoyed it more so as a moment than a fight, because Escanor slaughtered him. It wasn't really that much of a fight. If we're looking at it from that standpoint, then yeah, I can understand people's gripe with this fight. Like, this should have been probably one of the top 10 anime moments, similar to probably even going above Escanor versus Estarossa. And also we have Escanor using a new ability. I don't know if it's a transformation or what. It's like the one or whatever. So I'm guessing basically this should have been like, oh shit, Escanor. Assuming this was supposed to be like his huge moment for a lot of people, because he used this to take down Meliodas. But yeah, basically once we get to Meliodas versus Escanor, we're basically at the middle of the season. So we got a little bit more to talk about though. I guess I kind of skipped over like parts of the flashback, but we basically got the explanation for why Meliodas was able to come back to life. We also got some insight on Elizabeth's back. Well, it's not really a backstory, but it kind of is a backstory. Like, basically her purpose and why she has the powers that she does. And I don't know about you guys, but I thought this shit was it was a little bit of a mind F for me. I was like, whoa, I was not expecting that. Like, I wasn't expecting Elizabeth to be a reincarnate of a bunch of other Elizabeths, in that the weird kind of fairy tale-ish, not like the anime fairy tale, but kind of like, oh, if she learns about the truth of her past, she'll die in like a few days. That kind of was, I don't know, it just reminded me of like fantasy novels, fairy tales, kind of like you read in a book. I really like that scene. I feel like it was like a tiny bit forced, but I like the scene where it was like Bon and Meliodas were talking, and I think Bon was like worried about Elaine, who is like King's sister, I believe, who died and came back to life. A lot of people came back in season 2. I don't know how I felt about that. Another thing with season 2 was the whole power levels thing, which they don't really talk about that much in this season, which is kind of good, but they still use it a little bit. But yeah, basically what I was saying was there was this scene with Bon, Elaine, or Meliodas, where he was like, what do you know? Because I think Elaine was like injured or something. I don't really remember exactly what happened. She like used some kind of power to help Bon win. Bon kind of got nerfed this season heavily. I didn't really enjoy his character in this season at all. It feels like ever since Elaine came back, Bon has just been all over Elaine, and it's not really like he's communicating that much with the Sins or interacting with them at all. Like, I miss the old Bon who was like joking around with Hawk and all that, and you know, play fighting with Meliodas. They be beating the crap out of each other. Bon's basically like saying, what would you know about my pain? Like, I watched her die before or something, and you just have that scene with Meliodas, and he's like, all right, dude, you don't know shit about my backstory, huh? And then basically after that, we kind of learn about how Meliodas has been alive for God knows how long. He betrayed the commandments to basically help Elizabeth. Like, it seemed like him and Elizabeth wanted to bring peace and an end to the war. Like, they wanted to kind of like settle the differences between the demon clan and the goddess clan, which is where Elizabeth is from. Her first, I guess her ancestor is actually a goddess, and I guess she is a goddess too. I think that makes her a goddess. I'm not sure. Maybe she isn't, but she still has the powers of one. Anyways, basically Meliodas has been through some crap. Like, he's been alive forever, and like, he died the first time. So basically, before the war could even end, Meliodas and Elizabeth both were killed by the demon king and the goddess queen. I don't know if it was a queen or what, but basically the ruler of the goddesses. Basically, they killed them, and then they put a curse on them. Well, no, Elizabeth died. Meliodas, I don't know if he died. He might have survived. But basically, the curse says that Meliodas will forever come back to life again and again. And Elizabeth, like, each time she learns about her past, she'll die in 5 days, regardless of whatever happens. Like, that's some of the most savage crap you could put on somebody, don't you guys think? Imagine the girl you love, just like every time she comes or reincarnates, she falls in love with you first of all, and then when she eventually learns about her truth, if anything triggers that and she learns about like her reincarnates, she's gonna die in 5 days, and you can't do anything to stop that. You just have to witness that forever because you're immortal. Like, you can't die, and if you do, you'll come back. This is one of the most, I feel, not most original, but this is a very original plot line, and I'm like, after hearing that, I'm pretty curious to see what's gonna happen. Is Meliodas gonna die, or are they both gonna eventually just rest in peace at the end, or is it just the curse is gonna break and they're gonna live until old age? Like, what's gonna happen? I feel like this was a really strong part of this season, was seeing basically Meliodas' struggle, his conflict, like, that he doesn't even talk about. Like, Meliodas is a pretty chill dude, you know, be perving like hell, but maybe that's why, because you already know whatever he does, he's not gonna get slapped for it, or she's not gonna do anything about it, because she's basically forced to fall in love with him. Honestly, when I was watching the series, I was not expecting this to turn into some kind of convoluted love story plot. Like, I feel like after season 2 is when it kind of really started focusing a lot on these love subplots between like King Diane, the Gil Thunder has his girl, the other knights, Holy Knights, I think, have their own relationship going on or whatever. Even Gother had like a relationship for a little while until he turned savage. That's another thing. We got to learn about Gother's past. I'm not really going to talk about it all that much, but basically Gother was one of my least favorite sins for I'd say obvious reasons. I mean, he betrayed them first of all. He was really weird, but we got to see a little bit of his backstory, which I really wasn't expecting. It was alright. Like, it wasn't the most interesting thing to watch, but I mean, I feel like after that whole thing got resolved and he's like basically good, he's good for good now. After that whole thing, I feel like Gother's kind of redeemed in my eyes. I don't have too much of a problem with him anymore. His backstory was kind of dark, but not as dark. It was kind of strange too. Like, the original Gother, who was one of the 10 commandments, he molded Gother, because if you guys don't know, Gother is like a doll. Basically, he molded him to be modeled after his girlfriend, who I don't even think we even got to see. But he made him male so he didn't catch feelings for him. Like, that's a little strange, but you could see he actually did seem to care about Gother. He seemed like a really chill dude, honestly, when we saw him in the flashback. Like, he didn't attack. He was trying to end the war, actually. He wasn't like the other 10 commandments, just trying to like basically defend themselves, even if it meant they had to kill the opposition. Yeah, as you guys can see, I mean, is this really sounding bad? You guys are gonna have to tell me what your biggest gripe is with season 3, because I mean, I think all these plot points and this like connecting, they're like all connecting the dots. I feel like that really, it worked out. Like, I feel like I wasn't expecting it. It was very interesting, and I enjoyed watching all of it, except again that first episode. That's the only thing that I have a really big gripe about, was that first episode. I guess we can kind of talk about like kind of the next segment where they went against I might be skipping a little too far ahead, but again, I'm not trying to discuss this whole season thoroughly. So we're just gonna talk about like their fight with the 10 commandment. I forgot what her commandment was, but she turned into a snake and she got defeated. And she got captured, actually. I think Merlin actually captured her, because if she died, if you guys don't remember, in the last season, she was the one who brought Elaine back to life. She brought Hellbram, I think, back to life, and I feel like she brought somebody else, but basically you just want to focus on Elaine, because that's the only character that really even gets screen time. Hellbram got a little screen time, then he got killed off. I think in the same fight he got killed off, which again, my mind's a little bit foggy on season 2, but I forgot what Hellbram did. I remember he was evil, and he was evil turned good, which is a thing 7 Deadly Sins does like to do. I don't know how I feel about that. The whole thing with Dreyfus and Hendrix, I think that was their name. They were evil turned good, even though I feel like I might be getting their names mixed up. The one with the white hair, that's Hendrix, right? I feel like he's kind of unredeemable. I feel like he did some shit. He should probably be in prison, which he might have been in prison. Maybe he just got let out. But honestly, I don't know how I feel about that commandment. She just got captured. She didn't get killed because they wanted to keep Elaine alive. I feel like it would have been more, maybe I'm an asshole. I feel like it would have been better if they just kept Elaine dead after that. Like, she had her little moment. Bond, they even had that scene where Bond was like saying her goodbyes, and just to have her stick around because they captured the commandment. And that fight was also pretty whack. The fights in the season weren't the greatest. I'm not gonna try to sugarcoat it. But yeah, basically I just feel like Elaine should have probably just been kept dead, and honestly maybe that would have brought back some more resolve in Bond, because obviously that man got nerfed over the season. As soon as Elaine came back, Bond started putting in less and less work, and I like characters who put in work and not over there just copping feels on your girl. Like, come on, man, I ain't trying to see that. This is a shonen. We also got a few scenes I forgot to mention. Merlin gets a decent amount of, I guess you can say, development. She got a lot of screen time this season, honestly, which I feel like she got a decent amount in the last season, where they fought against one of the commandments who was turning people into stone, and I think she was one of the ones who actually got turned to stone. And basically Merlin's backstory is, it's okay. I mean, it's all right. I don't have a problem with it. Basically, like, it seems like she was just a child who grew up in some kind of mage capital area. I'm not sure, but basically, like, she was like a prodigy. Like, she was just favored by both the goddess clan and the demon clan, and they both gave her something for her to use. I forgot specifically what it was, but basically she's kind of like overpowered. But also she's a kid, which got revealed in the season. Like, she's a kid, and when I guess she has to use power to make her look grown up, which is a little weird. We actually got to see kind of a funny scene with her and Escanor, and Escanor's like, hey, can you please turn back? Because if you guys haven't caught on yet, Escanor wants Merlin. I mean, I don't blame him. Merlin might be best girl. I don't know. Actually, the FBI might go after me. Merlin, I don't know if you best girl. Maybe in your grown-up form. But that's a little bit weird. But it's not like she's like actually 10 years old. Like, I think she's almost as old. She's not as old as Meliodas, but she's almost as old as Meliodas, I'd say. Like, she's like, I think hundreds of years old. She's been around for a long time. Meliodas actually told her his backstory. She's like one of the only Sins who actually knew his backstory. Also, I forgot to mention, but I think it was either after or before that fight, Meliodas, I forgot how, but he triggered his demon power, and he became way stronger, almost matching. I think he was basically a little bit stronger than Escanor until he used the one transformation, which I still don't really understand. It also seems like Escanor may not make it to the end of the story, guys. Like, it is not looking good for him. I don't think he's gonna be able to get with Merlin. Shit, I mean, I forgot what scene. It was like a random scene. He was like coughing up blood. I mean, it's showing that this transformation or whatever kind of power he has is taking a toll. So honestly, I'm not sure if Escanor is gonna make it to the end game. We'll have to see. But yeah, after the fight, Meliodas is basically they're literally just babysitting Meliodas, and Elizabeth is, I think Diane basically was the one who, she told Elizabeth about like what they seen when they were being trained, which is basically the flashback, and they saw like somebody who looked just like her. And Meliodas was basically trying to like sway her away from like finding out the truth. Obviously Diane King don't know this, and once she finds the truth out, she awakens her demon or goddess powers, which seem to just be light magic and X Factor healing. Not X Factor healing, that's a little over dramatic, but basically she just has really good healing and goddess magic or whatever. So yeah, after the whole Meliodas Escanor, Meliodas turns evil, he goes to Zeldris. You have that whole little plot point where Zeldris is trying to be the Demon King, and Meliodas says, I have to be the Demon King. That's the only way I'm going to be able to save Elizabeth from dying, because, they got 5 days. Pretty sure the next season is going to be the last season of 7 Deadly Sins. I'm not sure if the manga has ended. I'm assuming it has. Yeah, we're approaching endgame territory, 7 Deadly Sins. I'm really curious to see what happens, you guys. Estarossa also came back. At the end, we see him. He has some kind of subplot with Elizabeth. It was kind of funny to see, because I really wasn't expecting Estarossa to be like that forgotten brother. Like, he was kind of like the weakest. And I didn't expect the commandments. One of the 2 commandments, Derriere and the dude who sometimes has no face, they also got, the dude with no face or no mouth got taken out. Then Derriere is still alive. Alright. I didn't even realize that most of the 10 commandments got taken out in the last season. I mean, you had the Fairy King and the Giant King. They basically just said, screw you guys, we're not teaming with you anymore. Basically it's just Zeldris Estarossa, and then he has his master and Meliodas' master, who they're kind of forgettable characters. I don't really give a crap about them. Also, another thing that happened in this that I didn't talk about, Merlin has some kind of relationship with King Arthur. If you guys don't know who King Arthur is, maybe I'll put an image in. Basically it's that one kid with the orange hair who, he seemed pretty buddy with Meliodas, but not now, because Meliodas is on his savage, basically. But he actually, supposedly, I'm putting air quotes around this, died. I forgot who killed him. I think it was one of the masters killed him, and Merlin was really upset about this. For some reason, she has some kind of attachment to King Arthur. We also see him get the sword, but that doesn't really do anything. He has this weird pet who I don't remember from the last season. It seemed like Arthur was about to be about that action. Like, he came into the season, he was more confident. He seemed like he was more serious, but he got clapped. So it's like, I can't say I was a fan of Arthur's character, really. I kind of forgot about all the holy knights. I only really care about the sins, to be honest with you guys. And the commandments, Zeldris is kind of cool. Estarossa, I thought he was cool until Escanor beat his ass. But yeah, I don't think Arthur's dead. He seems, I don't really see them killing off a kid like that, but also it just seemed like what was the whole point of that fight? That was like another fight that seemed really pointless. So yeah, this season was definitely not the season of 7 Deadly Sins fights. This was one on the weaker side, I'd say, in terms of fights. But at the end, basically, yeah, that whole subplot again, like I said, with Esterosa and Elizabeth, that's whatever. Esterosa ends up taking Elizabeth to wherever Zeldris was at the time. I don't really remember. I don't remember where Meliodas was at the end. There was this part where Bon ends up going into the Demon King's world, which, alright, I mean, he's immortal, but okay. I mean, there was like this weird part where it's like Hawk, or the Demon King was watching Meliodas from Hawks. Like, what? That seems a little random, but okay. So somehow Hawk's eye is able to transport Bon into the Demon King's lair, and he's just walking through there. Again, Bon didn't do anything this season. He got clapped by this commandment, Snake Girl. Then he goes into this, once he gets transported to the Demon King's lair, we don't really see him again. We see him at the last episode. He's just walking. That goes on for like 3 seconds, then it cuts back, and after Esterosa takes Elizabeth, that's where the season ends. So yeah, I mean, that was basically a rough summary of season 3, and again, I don't really see why people are crapping on this season. Like, yes, the moment with Escanor and Meliodas was ruined. Yes, the animation and quality was trash, but it's not unwatchable in my opinion. If you want to see trash animation, people love praising the old series like Yu Yu Hakusho. You think those animations were that amazing, but maybe people just expect better of a newer series. I don't know. I never have been that strict with animation quality. I don't really care that much. Like, people crap on series like One Piece for having inconsistent trash animation. Bro, One Piece has been going on since what, 1999, 2000-ish? There's like, what, 900 episodes, and you expect pristine Mob Psycho quality animation, movie quality animation consistently every episode? Like, come on, dude. So, I mean, animation aside, the season was pretty enjoyable. Yes, the censorship was stupid. I hate that they had to use white blood, but again, I feel like the plot really, I like that the plot started to show, and I think it was a pretty interesting and original plot, and I'm really curious to see what's going to happen next in this final season. So yeah, that's going to conclude the video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And this has been Kid Nothing, and I'm heading out. Have a great day, y'all.